Hello and welcome to Penelope's Chinwag. This episode is a little bit different because I've been asked by a friend to show her how to piece together in a traditional way patchwork. And she's doing a 9 patch and she wanted to know how to put it together. She's never done quilting before. And, you know, it's easy to sew a 9 patch on the machine, isn't it? Zip, 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 and off you go. But if you do it the traditional way, the way I was taught, I think I've been quilting now about 35 years. And from the moment I learnt from a brilliant teacher, thankfully, I just have never stopped because I can't. It's such a lovely thing to do. So I make my quilts by hand and I quilt them by hand. The whole thing is done the way it always used to be done. And so she wanted to know, how do I start to put together a 9 patch? So I did a little video and sent it to her, and she said it would be very helpful. And she said, I'm sure other people would benefit. So I thought, why not put it out for you? I wanted to show you a couple of quilts I've got here that I've made that will show you what a 9 patch looks like and how you can enlarge a 9 patch. It doesn't just have to be 9 squares, because that's what we mean by a 9 patch, 9 squares. So I'll show you the 9 that I made for her. And that's what a 9 patch is. These happen to be, to fit in her quilt, 2.5 inches across. That's the size she wanted. You could cut them any size you like. You could make them to fit anything you want. You could put them up that way and have that as the top. On point, we call that. You could make that and just keep making and making and making a large quilt. So that's what it looks like on the back, traditional patchwork way. Well, I won't say any more about that because I've made the film and shown you how to start all the way through and what it looks like at the end. So if that's something you're interested in, to learn how to traditionally piece patchwork, which is different to English paper piecing where you have the papers, and it's different to doing it on the machine, but there is a certain technique that is very easy if you follow the way. Now I want to show you some quilts I've got here that I've made. I made this one a long time ago, so let me show you a 9 patch in this. But this one, instead of being like that, I've put it on point. I've turned it that way and filled in the square with other shapes. So there's lots of different squares on this quilt. This one. Oh, I like this one. They've all got names, these traditional squares. This one's called Round the Garden Path. All made in exactly the same way as I made this. So if you can do that, you can do this. I'll show you another one. This is still the same 12-inch square. So you put 12-inch squares together and then strip it. There's a 9 patch. Again, on that point. All these different ones. I'll put, oh, I love this. This is called Storm at Sea, that one. Storm at Sea. It's one of my favourite blocks because it goes round, or gives the illusion of going round. I love it. And then this one is just squares. The whole quilt is just squares. Just squares sewn together in exactly the same way as I'm going to show you on the little film. It's too big to hold up. It's hard to film for you. I've popped it on the bed, but you can get the general idea. There's the 9 patch. Some more. There's the storm at sea. Gives the illusion of going round. Another storm at sea. But made in exactly the same way that I'm going to show you now how to make the 9 patch. There we go, with the beautiful blue fabric round the edge, and just squares. That's all it is, just squares. So I hope you enjoy the film of how to make a 9 patch. Do let me know if you'd like me to do more filming about quilting, and I will. And do join me next week for my usual collection of stories and fascinating facts, and showing you my quilting and showing you my knitting. Just my week. I look forward to that, and enjoy the rest of the film. I'll say cheerio now, or shall I say cheerio at the end? I'll say cheerio at the end. Yeah. See you in a minute. Well, 30 minutes I think it is. Okay, so the first thing to do when making my 9 patch is to select my 9 pieces of fabric. I'm stating the obvious, but yeah, I'm just going through it as I've done it. When you cut your pieces for your 9 patch, they're 2.5 finished size. That is 2.5, and so 2.5 finished size means you want 1/4 of an inch all round, quarter, so that's 3, 3. And so these pieces I've cut to 3 inches. The first thing to do is to press them, to iron them if you like, but you know, we tend to press when we do these things, because once you start ironing things and all of that, you've got to check the size again, because you could distort the fabric. So my fabric has been pressed, and I have 9 squares. So let's get them ready for sewing. I do mine on a piece of sandpaper because it holds the fabric. The temptation might be to just draw 1/4 of an inch line around each piece of fabric, but that won't really work. It won't give you, well, it will work, but it won't give you the best result, because this piece of fabric, when I put it on my 3 inches, is a little bit short there. It hasn't been cut true. And so if I drew a line, it would be wrong. I use cardboard, but of course you could have a lovely piece of acrylic, 2.5 inch square, and then you could place it on your squares, and you'll see exactly what you're going to get, which is helpful, and then you can draw around that. But there we are. I've got a 2.5 inch piece of cardboard, which is fine. And you place that on your fabric, like so, and you do a little dot, not too heavy. You just want to be able to see it, a little dot in each corner, and then join those dots and point your pencil in so that it's right up close. You've got the dot so you know the corner. Let's do it on another piece of fabric. I'm going to do it on this one. I think you'll see nicely there. So again, I could just draw. I could check that measurement and see that it is exactly 3 inches. And that has been cut perfectly. But you know, sometimes we don't cut it perfectly. And if you just draw a 1/4 of an inch line along, it will be wrong. So use your template. Do what we did before, because this way works. Do your dots, and I'm doing them quite heavily so you can see them. Start in the middle of the line and work out, because then the fabric doesn't move. Slant the pencil in. Good, that's worked. Can you see that? Yeah. So now we've got 2 patches. And what we need now is about 3 pins. That's all you need. And needle and cotton. I put my pin in that hole, that dot, and I marry it up with that dot. I literally lift it off and marry it up with the dot and pop my pin down. I do the same over here in that dot and pop that through that dot. Now we know that's right. And then you see fabric, it moves, doesn't it? It's different fabrics have got different stretches. So we're going to pop the pin in that line and marry it up with that line. And pop the pin in that line and marry it up with that line. And can you see, we knew these were 2 3-inch squares. Perfect, we measured it. So that pin needs to be turned to go that way. And the way you could twist your pin will change your fabric. It will either line it up or not line it up. So if I turn it that way, it's not lined up. Can you see that? And if I turn it that way, it lines it up. So pins can be turned to make the fabric line up nicely if it doesn't. So now I'm going to hold this together, take that pin out, and I'm going to put my needle in that dot that we made through the other side to that dot. And I'm going to do a few little running stitches on the line. Just a few. Pull it through. I'm going to do a back stitch. Just a few little running stitches. Take my pin out. Just a little back stitch. Just along the line, little running stitches. A back stitch. Along the line. Take the pin out. Along along the line. And I'm going to do 2 little back stitches, take the pin out and cut my thread, and here we have sewn together. Just finger press it open. So you want to know that your fingers are clean, and that's all that's needed. So I'm going to do another patch on the end. I'm going to draw around, and I'm going to make a line of 3, and I'm going to make 3 lines of 3 because I'm doing a 9 patch, exactly the same. Let me show you. I'm going to put my 2.5-inch square on there. Do a little dot, draw around, and by doing it half, I'm not dragging the fabric. If I did it right along, there's a tendency to drag the fabric. And point your pencil in. So here I have my lines with my dots. I'm going to line up. That needs to go the other way up. So there's a perfect error. I'm going to put that one there, and then I'll swap that one back. It can happen to anybody. Okay, so I'm going to now put right sides together, making sure it's not the wrong way up. Right, happy. I'm going to put that pin into that dot and line it up with that dot. I'm going to put the pin in there and line it up. That's a perfect line up. And I'm going to put one in the middle. That's perfect. I hold my fabric together and take my pin out, pop it through that dot and that dot. So I'm going to just do a little back stitch there, do a few little running stitches, few running stitches with a little back stitch, a couple of back stitches at the end, take the pins out, finger press, and there you have it. I hope you can learn by my mistake. So I'm going to go away and undo this one, and I'm going to make 3 rows of 3, and then I'll come back and show you how to sew them together. And here we have it. The mistake put right, so make sure it's the right way up that you want it. Make sure it's in the right position. So here's 1, and here's 2, and here's 3. Now, when you machine this together, you're told to, push the seams one way and push the seams the other way so they nest. We don't have to do the seams that way, that way, that way, because that's not the way you do patchwork. Okay, I'll show you how we... Oh, can you hear the seagull banging on the roof? I'm going to put that one on the top. And so I'm going to put that down there like that. I know that's okay. That's right. Yeah, that will be right. So this is the seam I want to sew. So I'm going to put my pin in there. I put my pin in exactly the same. I find the dot. I find the dot. Those little dots are the ones I line up. And then I find the dot. And I find the dot. Don't go through those seams. Find the dot and the dot. Just as we did before. We treat it exactly the same. And then a pin in the middle because it's not very long, is it? And get those lines lined up. Yeah, so that's gone through the lines. Okay. I'm just going to treat this the same as before. Hold that together. Take the pin out. Hopefully I put that in the dot and in the dot. Yep. And I just maybe do a little back stitch. And I go along the line. I think that line's going to be a bit pale for you to see. Along. Little running stitches along. And a little back stitch. Little running stitches along. And a little back stitch. So how are you going to do your 9 patch? Are you going to cut a whole pile of 3-inch squares, which are going to land up as 2.5, and then just play and put them together when you come to do a 9 patch? Or are you just going to cut 9 at a time? Who knows? Right, I've come to the corner. I'm doing a little back stitch into that dot. I then put my needle through that seam and find the dot the other side. I then put my needle through that dot and into the dot the other side. You're going to have to line it up into the dot. Yeah, there we go. Into the dot. And now I'm going to go through that dot into the next dot. Through. And I'm back where I started. But I've made a lovely, secure bind, you know, that's all secure because it's gone through, and through, all through those 4 dots. I'm now going to get this piece, match up my dots, match the dot up. Don't go through that other piece of fabric. Like that. Once you've got the knack, it's so quick, you just will zoom along. One in the middle. I need a longer piece of thread really, but I'm going to try and manage. And here we go. And just exactly the same. Running stitch and a back stitch. Running stitch. And a back stitch, running stitch, and a back stitch, little running stitch. Now I'm coming up to going through all 4 dots. I'm coming up into that dot, take the pin out, and I'm going to go through the seam into that next dot, round to the back, through and round to the back into that dot, through that seam into that dot. We're going to go back now to where we started. We've made a lovely secure joint. And I'm now going to put my pin in there. Through and match up the lines. And through, match up the lines. You get to do it. It's like a rhythm. Is my thread going to last? It's the usual thing, isn't it? I don't think it is. The answer is no. Oof. Definitely no. So I'm going to just sign off there. Get some new thread. Here we go. I'll just start a little bit back, just to be on the safe side. And up through the dot. 2 little back stitches as we did before. Are they up the right way? Yay, they are. And if you look, because we went through each one, the join is perfect. It is absolutely perfect, which is what we want. So do I want this at the bottom or do I want it at the top? I either have those two running together or those two running together. I think I like that and that in the middle because it's darker. Righty-ho. So I'm now going to do these two together and then we've got our 9 patch. So I'm going to show you, although it's ditto repeato, I'm putting the pin in the dot and I'm putting the pin in the dot. It is. I'm coming along and getting that seam out the way, getting it out the way, and then I'm putting the pin in the dot and I'm pushing it through without catching any of these seams. They're all out the way and it's gone through to the dot on the back. So that's fine. And I then line up my line. That's fine. I'm going to do the same here just so I can keep going with my stitches. So I'm going to get those seams out of the way. I'm going to pop my pin in the dot, come through to the dot, move it into that dot so it lines up beautifully, and then just ease that fabric together with a pin in the middle on the line, and then a pin at the end with the dots matching, which they do. And a pin in the middle on the line. So I'm going to sew that line along. Ditto repeato. Through the dots. little running stitch, 1 back stitch, few little running stitches, little back stitch, I'm coming up to the dot and I'm going to go through all 4. I'm going to do a little back stitch. I'm going to go through that dot, not catching any other fabric, and then getting those seams out the way at the back, because I'm going to go through that dot. Don't catch it. Don't catch that seam, just through that dot and then through to the back. I'm going through those 2 dots, back to the front where we started from in the dot, back through those, or forward through those, so that I can then carry on with the little running stitches. I'm coming up to the dots again. I'm going through, getting those other seams out the way. I'm going through, 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 and through, and off I go again. I've really made that joint beautiful. I know it's all going to line up because I've been through each one of those dots. Little back stitch, my little running stitches, little back stitch. I'm running up to the end and we've done our 9 patch. Back stitch, and 2 little back stitches in the dots. They line up beautifully. There we are. We can press this with a little square seam at the back. I'm just going to nip down and just put the iron on that and I'll be back. And there you have it. The little squares, if you choose to press them that way, let's put it on there and you can see. If you choose to press them that way, they sit nicely then. They don't take up any, any bulk. And you don't want to iron the living daylights out of it. You just want to give it a press. And there it is. A patchwork 9 patch done traditionally by hand, the way I was taught. Has it whetted your appetite, or is it something you do all the time and love, just like I do? I'd love to hear from you. And as I say, take care, have a good week, and I'll see you next week with my usual episode. Bye-bye.